meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren.
Ladies and gentlemen, summing up the conference is going to be difficult with a huge range of issues that we covered in so many different parallel events with stands, exhibitions, activities, debates in the coffee breaks and all the rest of it. Would not just take a long time, but it would also be unfair because you'd be focusing only on one or two things. So what I'd rather do instead of that is just to respond to the issue of the 16th German Congress on crime prevention, new media worlds, a challenge for the crime prevention. I would like to just give you a sort of summary of all the things that have come out of the debates that I have had. I think that Mr. Stock has focused on the international side of things, and Dr. Stefan has talked about the Oldenburg Declaration. Perhaps I'll just focus on a number of basic effects. Now, behind this question of challenges for crime prevention was a question mark. But the question is it really a question mark, or should it be an exclamation mark? And the response, I believe, is found in many of the talks that we've had, namely with a number of different nuances, depending on gender, age, experience of one's own children or children one is involved in looking after, experience with victims, the capture and detention of criminals. I think the answer is yes. Yes, indeed. The new media worlds do indeed present challenges in the area of crime protection. Are these new challenges? Are they categorically new? Mr. Stock referred in his remarks to this aspect. Have they never been there before? Are they absolutely dramatic? Are they a basic threat to society? In my response, based on what I've seen and heard and read in this context, I think we need to differentiate. Let me begin with the victim side of the equation. In philosophical debates in the Middle Ages, when we used to talk about the police that we had then, mundus vult decipi, or the world and humanity wish to be deceived. What does this actually mean? Human, all too human? The conditio humana? All of us long for intimacy, for love. Women perhaps more openly than men in terms of admitting it. And then someone comes along who gives us various different messages, verbal and non-verbal. And this activates in our lizard brain that is responsible for impulse control an antenna. We selectively respond to the positive if we've had negative experiences, but a warning signal is issued by our antenna. But some people want a positive signal so badly that they tend to inhibit these warning signals, this uh-oh feeling, and then they really become victims who have lost money, who've been involved in sexual abuse, crimes, have fallen for a false sympathy scam. Often women more than men, often girls more than boys fall for these things again and again. These are repeat victims. We know this from the old analog discussion of codependency with alcoholism. You marry an alcoholic who beats you, then you divorce yourself, then you start in a relationship with somebody else, and the same thing happens again. And we've heard of repeat offenders, as it were, on the victim side with alcoholism again and again. So why is it that the new media are so striking in this area? They make it possible for perpetrators to camouflage when it comes to entering into contacts with people, the inhibiting of warning signals, the emotional nurturing of their potential victims that can lead to a kind of psychological blindness, even if you have a personal date where you actually see the person, but you still sort of have your reality veiled by all of the experiences you've had online with them, even if they look quite different to what you've imagined. Money isn't everything, but nothing is anything without any money. Some people would like to have some money in their pockets. Some people in Swabia, it is said, live to have money. So we all want to have some of the money that makes the world go round on our own account. And we mustn't forget that everybody else out there, but not me, of course, often thinks that it is human, all too human, to be greedy. One of the old traditions of the Church that many have forgotten is the 7 deadly sins of mankind. And what is the challenge of the new media world? Anonymity, camouflage, the lack of direct physical presence of the person opposite you. And if you think of Franz Josef Strauss, some of the older Germans in the room may be familiar with this. Basically, you can be tricked in all manner of different ways. There was somebody who lost 35,000 euros in an absolute scam involving pineapples that you may remember. It is the greed of all those thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who are trying to make profit. There were these pyramid games and all manner of different scams that people fell for. And in the virtual world, and I think this is the real temptation here, just one click and you're in. And after the 6th level that you can no longer control anymore, suddenly you have been fleeced. And then you look to point fingers and place blame. Humanity wants to be deceived, remember. There are all manner of different situations that can trigger such a case, that bring people into victim situations. The web, the virtual community, makes this increase exponentially. Young people are curious. Often old people are too trusting, as are young people as well, and young people often lack the experience and knowledge to engage with just how thin the ice is on the lake that they are skating on. People become increasingly aggressive sometimes and want to unleash this aggression. If somebody offends you, you can punch them. If you're aggressive online, the results of your aggression cannot be made good again or removed. As we grow older, we are more and more tempted by forbidden fruit, and this determines the way we negotiate the internet. But in fact, we are confronted with all manner of dangers as we do so.
Virtual worlds have an impact on all these dimensions. They break down limits and potentiate dangers. Once I'm only with myself, I've got my own preferences, but when I'm with friends, then this can be buffered. But once I'm in the big cloud of relationships, then this starts its own life, and in the network, then reality develops by itself. By the way, human beings are carefree, often carefree. They don't worry, they don't care, they are negligent, they are not concentrated, and all these are situations which can lead you to become a victim. And what about the perpetrators? Well, I've already addressed them a couple of times. In new media, we see that the very original drives are extrapolated. The 40-year-old perpetrator is developing a virtual identity, and the pederast is turning into a 9-year-old who also speaks to other 9 years old. And one then is starting an internet relationship, coming to a contact, and I don't tell you about the consequences. The fraudulent person, not talking about sexual perpetrators or tricksters. A fraudulent person does not have to pre-finance 35,000 letters in order to get 3 to 4 gimbals who are just falling. If he's has got some hacking knowledge, then he will copy 500 to 5,000 computers in one country, different countries, is linking them to a botnet, which we've already heard about, and on the cost of others, 2 million emails are sent around the world. If every thousands of those 2 million addressees is failing and pays €100 to get the million, then the perpetrators will easily gather €200,000 and then just close the account. And this is just one example. There are so many more. And of course, what needs to be added, and this has also been addressed, the unnoticed damage, undetected damage, that you don't even see that this has been withdrawn. Companies don't notice it because the individual amounts are very small and nobody really pays attention to this. And I noticed that even here on the 16th German Congress on Crime Prevention, somebody showed the hacker consequences live. Okay, and what can be done in crime prevention? Can we do anything? And again, this Congress, and I'm happy for this, has provided us with a lot of ideas, practical introductions, and to say it clearly, anything which can be abused will be abused. And as everything can be abused, at some point in time, everything will be abused. And by the way, Fukushima is welcoming everything which will break down, everything can break down, so everything will break down at some point in time. We need preventive action, especially against technical abuse. Individually, obviously, you can install filter programs and you can improve them for parents in such a way that kids have not cracked them after 2 hours. I wondered whether they really gave it a try. For companies, you have to do something which is already happening in reality. That is own attacks. These are hackers who were bordering illegal situations, have now developed their own companies and offer other companies to show them that their so-called safety measures are not worthwhile. This is an old recipe which police is also using. Internationally, in particular, one used it for burglars. Burglars were used as experts, not as perpetrators, in order to learn from them how you can really overcome things. And everything is happening much quicker. In the old analog world, I remember a safety company which said, we have the absolutely secure safety key. And the police was heard about this. And 2 weeks later, a police officer saw something at the prison. This was the perfect tool to quickly demobilize this safety key within a minute. And what the authorities have to be done and what had been discussed on the level of the Federal Crime Police Office is abuse scouting. So for each new product, you have to actively ask, as everything can be abused, what are the abuse options and possibilities and threats of this new product, and can we at least prevent for 10% of these future risks? So, to conclude, we always need a mix of methods. We need a mix of methods because everything is complex. You can't really trust quick solutions. And we need a sustainable mix because, A, we see future generations developing again and again, and we don't know how they will look like. And many older generations have already unlearned what they learned a year ago. And secondly, because those who are adolescents, they are forgetful, they are carefree, they don't worry. And, you know, the human being is a person who is following habits, and sometimes these are bad habits. And what is most important, and we're working on this, we need institutions who have a good technological equipment, but also have good staff. And this is important, has been mentioned before, because the enormous advance of technological knowledge means that what we know today will be obsolete tomorrow. We don't have time to think about what has happened. This is why we have to anticipate what is happening. This is why we need young people, very young people also, as consultants. And this is because they have this curious, playful approach. They are genuine in their personality. They have grown up with these new media, and they really know what this is all about. And just a small sideline, I sat together with a colleague who's got grandchildren, several grandchildren, and he said one grandchild wanted to show him something of this new reality, and then he said, "Oh, grandfather, you don't understand anything, a zero checker." And that at an age where you would not expect your grandchild to understand anything. And ladies and gentlemen, continuous series of what is done well. So you have to approach this in a playful way, like a TV spot. I remember the series which was called The Seventh Sense, where 5 minutes just in front of the main news in the evening, there were very good examples. For example, why it is stupid to have that behavior of A and not B. Why don't we have a seventh series for the cyber world, glossy, well presented, just to make people understand? Because people watch once you provide the appropriate and good pictures for them. And what about the children, the small ones we would like to protect? Well, what do they need? They just need personal, living, emotional affection. They need activating affection. They need joint activities, not always with their parents. They need more praise than scolding. They need warmth instead of neutrality and coldness. And they have to feel at home. And why is that so? You all know it. And modern neuropsychology, and we have a specialist of this just here. And they tell us that you can show this in the brain. This will lead to relationships and self-esteem. Relationships and self-esteem will lead to a stable concept of oneself and a trust in the world, which means that I can positively interact with the world but still have my antenna open. And this then lead to resilience and to a self-repairing effect. Once a damage has happened, then you can overcome it much more easily than if you have not developed this trust. This is what resilience is all about. So new media offer a lot of options to discover the world in unknown ways. And human beings are now carrying and maintaining contacts over thousands of kilometers, which would not have been possible in the past. And also individually and collectively, you can quickly do good. We already do good once we do what we believe is good and ask our children to follow this. And the good, this is clear, is the bad that you don't do. So successful prevention and successful crime prevention is an optimum mix of doing and not doing. And try to understand that message in all peace and calm. Thank you very much for your attention.